Okay, Independence Day is on its way up. What are you going to do? A few more weeks, you get a little holiday off, and you're starting to think about, fuck, I don't have the kids. What am I going to do? Believe me, what you're going to do is you're going to rebuild your life. You have to understand that I've been divorced for, or I should say without the kids, for, almost 40 years. 40 years. So I had to basically rebuild my life. Thank God I was divorced the first time in my 30s. So let's just say you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, first time divorced, don't have the kids don't love you, or they do love you, and you just happen not to have them for this holiday. I remember the pain I would go through, and thank God for sports, because my kids were always doing something, in baseball especially, tennis, golf, and if I did have them, I'd create something. I'd always have a couple weeks, and I'd visitation. But once they become teenagers, you can throw the visitation schedule away, unless you have a really bad spouse that doesn't want to deal with you. You know what I mean? And uses the kids as pawns. I was very lucky because my kids love sports, and I love sports, and I ended up coaching them. So this video is basically for the guys, because I get comments, and my audience is almost 60% over 45. Of course, divorce. Divorce is what's carrying me on my my YouTube. I have so much to say, but everybody wants to hear about divorce and how to live life after divorce, or during divorce, or before divorce. The big deal here is to have a strategy, have goals, and even though your dreams might be busted like mine were, you can rebuild. You can rebuild, and that's what you got to do. And your kids are okay with that, because your kids want you to be happy. But I will tell you what you have to be careful of. When you're a single dude, good looking, you got stuff going on for yourself, you got to watch dating. You really do. Because you got enough to do, man. You got a career, you got to rebuild your life. And when you're in your 40s, you could have lost your job, you could have lost opportunities to get Social Security, to build it, okay? And don't forget, Social Security is only basically petty cash by the time you retire, like me, okay? So you have to rebuild. And if you got child support, you got spousal maintenance, alimony, you got to do it. So the number one thing I'd watch out for is dating. Sure, go out and have some fun or whatever it is. Even if you have to buy it, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Second of all, watch the alcohol and the drugs, the recreational shit, because it's only going to get you in trouble. It's only going to get you in trouble. And the other thing is, learn how to be alone. I remember how embarrassed I was to go to a movie by myself, because most people didn't have the flexibility that I had. So if I didn't have the kids that weekend or visitation, I'd go to a movie. You know how hard it was for me to go to a restaurant by myself and just stay one? Economically, it was great, but it was not easy, man. Just do things alone. That's why you need a network. You need a network. Like in my case, I had a lot of guys that either back in those days, when was it? I divorced in the late 80s, early 90s. There'd be ins groups, get together. Afterwards, we used to call it afterglow. Afterglow was what I was looking for. So you'd cry for an hour to 2 hours with a bunch of guys about how angry you are, how much you got fucked over, and so on. Then you go to a dance club, not a strip club, a dance club, and you try to meet women. That's the bottom line. And you got to remember, I was in my 30s, so I was still what I would call in my prime, okay? And I did everything that I just told you not to do. In other words, dating, alcohol, having fun, and not doing shit alone. Well, guess what? After a while, I started working at it, because I started thinking about, how am I going to rebuild my life? And in my case, I had a career. I bought myself into a business that I was managing, and I put everything. I was all in I put everything on the line. I was living with a guy for $300 a month. And it was great because we played a lot of cribbage. We played just board games. And his father would come over and we would hang out, and we were both single dudes, divorced. He had a career, I had a career, and we became really good buddies. And we had a lot in common because we both had 3 kids. He had 3 boys, I had 2 boys and a girl. So we would do things together at times, skiing, golf, go to ball games, and they were all about, his kids were a little bit older than mine, and I was younger, of course, than my buddy Nick. And Nick was a great guy. I'll never forget all the shit that he did for me. And he was kind of into philosophy too. And he got really hurt in his divorce. I mean, really hurt. And he wasn't as outgoing as I was. I was more gregarious. I was out there in sales, so I knew a lot of people. And I could actually build my network, my business network, through golf, playing cards, and most people were married that I dealt with. But then I would sprinkle in a few single guys, and I got to know them really well. And they would basically give me a heads up that, Rock, there's life after divorce. That's a good term. Guys, there's life after divorce. And you got to give yourself enough time to grow as an individual. Because let's face it, when we were married young, we didn't know who in the fuck we were. I'm in my 70s now, and I have a kind of a good idea of who I am today. But I'm really, I've had 8 businesses in those 50 years of business. So I keep changing them, Why? Because I get to the point where I say, okay, I achieved what I wanted to. I learned enough. Now I could pass it on. Because that's what I do. I'm a startup specialist. I'm an entrepreneur, succession, exit strategist. I'm a merger and acquisition expert. I know all that shit. And everybody's younger than me. And all the guys that are my age or older and married are very, very unhappy because they've held on to that business of theirs and they didn't know how to let go. There's very few guys I know that sold their business and had a game plan of what to do after. We call that post-transaction. Very few. Most people just hold on, and hold on. And you know who they are. You might be working for a guy that'll never let go. There's a lot of examples of old-timers in the NFL. All these guys, average age is, 90? You look at these owners in basketball, you got a guy like in Minnesota, Glenn Taylor, had a hell of a time letting go of his business. How about the other guy that got kicked out, the racist? I mean, it's terrible. I know people that are in their 80s that are just holding on. And you know what? They're all going to die. We're all going to die. So this message is basically you got to be happy and you got to make yourself happy. No one else is going to make you happy. A new woman, a new man, a stepfather, a blended family, none of it's going to be. And don't forget, everyone is different. Everyone's got a different mentality, morals, ethics, integrity, a foundation. All right. I'll talk to you again very soon. God bless you. Have a nice holiday. God bless.